Herkese merhaba arkadaşlar. Ben Ececihan Güzel. Bugün karşınızda sevgili Esther ile birlikteyiz. Bunu yayını ilkten açmıştım. Fakat ağır ilerleyen bir oyun olduğu için bunu videoya çekip YouTube kanalımıza koymaya karar verdim. Şimdiden izlediğiniz için teşekkür ederim.
Dear Esther, the gulls do not land here anymore. I've noticed that this year they seem to shun the place. Maybe it's the depletion of the fishing stock driving them away. Perhaps it's me. When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds were sickly and their shepherds the lowest of the miserable classes that populate these Hebridean islands. 300 years later, even they have departed.
Şu anda Esther'in bilinçaltında oynuyoruz. Oyunun ise kocası, yani oyun demeyeyim, alt yazılarda gördüğünüz gibi konuşan adam kocası. Karısının ölümünden sonra neler yaptığını anlatıyor. Birinci bölümümüz gördüğünüz gibi bir Deniz Feneri'nin orada başladı. Amacımız kırmızı nokta yanan yere gitmek. Karşıda görebilirsiniz. Şu anda görebiliyorsunuz.
There was once talk of a wind farm out here, away from the rage and the intolerance of the masses. The sea, they said, is too rough for the turbines to stand. They clearly never came here to experience the becalming for themselves. Personally, I would have supported it. Turbines would be a fitting contemporary refuge for a hermit. The revolution and the permanence.
Oyunda bir kötülük var. Hızlı yürüme seçeneğimiz yok. Ağır ve yavaş yürüyoruz.
The mount is clearly the focal point of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose, deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings, and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then? When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh. I quote directly, a motley lot with little to recommend them. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most God-forsaken of all the inhabitants of the Outer Isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that, I wonder?
Oyunun grafikleri ve efektleri oldukça güzel. Grafik seven Arkadaşlarımızın
Dear
oynamasını
Esther,
tavsiye ederim.
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I would leave you presents outside your retreat in this interim space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures. He still maintains he wasn't drunk, but tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I walked up the cliff path in near darkness and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn that I saw the bothy and decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an air of uneasy permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, erosion seems to have evaded it completely.
Arkadaşlar, birinci bölümümüzün sonuna gelmiş bulunmaktayız.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the
İkinci
M5
bölümümüze
between
buradan
Exeter
devam
and Bristol
edeceğiz.
over 21
Beni
times.
izlediğiniz için
But
teşekkürler.
although I have all the
Teşekkür ederim.
reports and all the
Kendinize iyi
witnesses,
bakın.
and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks.